Welcome to the second part of this video series on Seneca Learning. In this video, I'll discuss why I think Seneca Learning should be your mobile gaming app of choice during exam season. If you haven't seen the first video on how and why it works, go back and have a watch. Let's talk about gaming for a bit. There's a very good reason why the top downloaded apps on the App Store are often games. To explain this, I'm going to refer to this article called Compulsion Loops and Dopamine Hits: How Games Are Designed to Be Addictive, written by Andrew Braun for the Make Tech Easier website. Much of his thinking revolves around how games are very good at stimulating one of the primary pleasure chemicals in our brain, dopamine. He provides 4 simple steps to explain the basic process which is happening within any game and what happens within our brains whilst we're playing. 1. The player gets a task to complete and the promise of a reward at the end. Motivation. 2. The player is given a clear pathway to completing the task, an achievable challenge. 3. The player completes the task and gets the reward, dopamine hit. 4. The player gets another task, formula repeats. He then goes on to say, so why do games stimulate dopamine release? They're not really important for our survival, but it turns out that they do fulfill some basic human needs, specifically competence, autonomy, and relatedness. According to researchers Andrew Przybyłski, I hope I got that right, Richard Ryan, and Scott Rigby. Put simply, people play video games because they make us feel like we are good at something. We are in control and we are connected to people. Okay, so I've rambled on about gaming for a bit there, and you still might be thinking, what are you chatting about? This is Seneca Learning. It's an online learning platform. It's quite clear. After all, it's called Seneca Learning, not Seneca Gaming. But bear with me a minute. What's interesting about Seneca is that there are some very clear signs that they are setting up their platform in a way that has made other games very popular through the compulsion loops and dopamine hits they create. I'll get into the specifics on this in a moment. I believe if you can understand the addictive qualities of gaming, why it makes you feel good, how the game is doing it, and what is going on a chemical level inside your head whilst you're playing games, you will be able to be more in control of that gaming habit. Here's a metaphor for you. It's a bit like when you watch a magic trick, you want to see that trick over and over again in order to try and figure out how it actually works. But once you do eventually figure out how it works, it becomes less appealing. And you don't want to watch it over and over again because you know how it works. In relation to your gaming habit, you're going to be in a stronger position to be able to channel that habit into making a positive contribution to your exam preparation, and when exams are over, into your life in general. In the next section of the video, I'll argue that through Seneca Learning, you can actually use what makes you successful and interested in gaming for the learning and memorization of your exam content. To begin, here are some parallels between the way Seneca Learning works and popular games. In the same way as games such as Farmville and The Sims immediately make you feel competent at the game because there are no specific levels or challenges, Seneca adapts its platform to each user. We quickly lose interest in games which we find too difficult. Therefore, Seneca ensures you feel like you're making some progress by serving you questions you're likely to answer correctly, and then gradually making them more challenging. In the same way, Farmville and The Sims allow you to do basic things such as plant crops or exercise a sim character, which in turn makes you feel some small and easy sense of achievement, and it encourages you to keep playing the game. Seneca also uses group competition to engage you in the learning and memorization process. Just like Call of Duty and Fortnite, it has leaderboards which can operate individually and on a group, or in this context, school versus school basis. Apart from encouraging each individual's inherent competitiveness and desire not to lose, team leaderboards and incentivizing working well with others is a fantastic way to get your dopamine flowing. Also, having other people depending on you makes it more likely that you'll consistently show up to play the game and invest heavily into the gaming process. At the end of some sessions, you will have the chance to store your revised knowledge in a beautiful location around the world. This is part of a widely used memory technique called the Mind Palace, which helps you remember different chunks of content by image and place association. The variety of locations could also be perceived as a varied reward incentive, in the same way as Fortnite rewards you with new skins as a reward for completing a challenge. People tend to value rewards even more when they are unpredictable in nature and awarded on an irregular basis. As a consequence, they will dedicate more time to the game. Seneca also encourages you to think you have almost achieved something by clearly showing the progress bar throughout the session. It's a bit like a light at the end of a tunnel. It gives you hope and it feels like you've almost leveled up your knowledge. In a similar way, Fortnite shows the health bar of the person who just defeated you. Let me ask you this: how many times has one of your buddies died on the game and then screamed, "Crumbs, they were so close to dying"? Okay, they probably didn't do it like that, but still, you get the point. In the same way, most of the time you lose in Candy Crush, you only lose by a couple of moves. These are deliberate design elements by the people who are making these games. By making sure a victory or an achievement is always just in sight, these games can keep you playing for longer. Now we have a little more insight into how popular games are stimulating dopamine releases within our brains and creating these compulsion loops through making us feel competent, autonomous, and related to other people. We can start to gain a little more control over it. I'd argue that because of what we know, you should be able to make the shift from playing games that don't contribute to your exam preparation or performance to games like Seneca Learning, which do, at least for exam season anyway. After all, Seneca is delivering pretty much the same neurochemical benefit to your brain. But I know what you're thinking. It's not that easy. Games you're already playing have you wrapped up in a whirlpool of dopamine hits and compulsion loops that are very, very difficult to jump out of. So, how do you jump out of that whirlpool and into Seneca Learning's VIP hot tub for exam season? That's what I'll be discussing in the next video.